what we're looking at right here is a dashboard inside of the data center, and I'm looking at different network services inside of that data center. So things like my VoIP, my VoIP calls, DNS, looking at authentication, looking at LDAP. You can see here how we're trending on different KPIs that we're sort of looking in here. So this is really sort of that at a glance view that shows me exactly how well a particular service is running inside of that data center. Most of these things, quite frankly, are transparent to the users. If they know that there's something out there that's causing problems with DNS, we haven't done our job, right? So we want to make sure that everything is running smoothly. There's several different ways that we can actually come in. So let's say, Sally from accounting calls up and she says, I had a bad experience in regards to a VoIP call today. What happened? There's several different ways to be able to query and start that investigation. One is to simply come to the Corvil solution, and we can begin to start to type in a caller ID, or we can type in an actual, who they called, so I can search for that. I can also go through and take a look at things just at a sort of a global level, and sort of understand exactly how things are going from that global level. I can also begin to look at failure codes. So a lot of times there's specific failure codes that we know that cause problems, either cross-vendor support or other things. I can drill down into a call that way, or I can even just come in here and look at, poor. Looks like I don't have any poor calls going on, but I can just sort of drill down into just those pieces here. So let's drill down into one of these failure codes, and we'll go ahead and take a look at that particular call. So here I have a more detailed view of that specific call. I can get things like, look at the call quality over here. But really what I'm interested in down here is sort of our decodes and sort of our ability to sort of look at and be able to understand exactly what's happening for that particular call. So here I have a message, and this message has specific things. I can see codec information, I can see my markings, I can see all those things that are in here. But one of the things I want to kind of do is I want to be able to visualize, like, did this call set up correctly? Did it actually connect out to the different pieces that I want to connect out into? And so one of the things that we can do is we can actually, with the Corvil solution, if I go into my voice over IP, I can actually generate a ladder diagram. So this diagram is really that call that I just chose, and it's looking at all the connectivity across the call managers, it's looking at the different handsets, and I'm seeing all of the individual messages that are going across. So this allows me to understand, okay, I initiated the call here. Yes, we responded back. We basically went down to the handset here. I have the communication between all those pieces. So I have a full accounting, frankly, of this entire phone call, including the signaling, that allows me to understand what the actual MOS was for that particular phone call. And at any one of these sort of points here, I can sort of drill in to get additional detail. So for a first level support personnel that just needs to know, hey, did this call happen? And was it set up in the appropriate way? This is a great way to be able to do it. And I'll show you something else here. So with the Corvil solution, you're only ever a couple of clicks away from the packets themselves. So one of the things that I can actually do is I can actually download the PCAP for this particular call. Now, why is this important? Well, it's important because I can begin to sort of attach this downstream. So if I'm the level 1 support personnel and I'm seeing this particular call, I see something interesting here, an error message or something that's coming up, I might go ahead and download that PCAP, attach it to my my ticket, and then send it down to my Tiger teams to be able to investigate further. So it does allow me to essentially sort of wrap that up and encapsulate those calls. And now I have a record of that bad call going through there. Now, there's also some things that we can do with LiveNX. So one of the things that I want to sort of say is, look, I don't necessarily see this call in regards to the branch itself. So, since I'm sitting in a data center, they may be collecting out to a hybrid voice service or some other piece out there, and I want to be able to see what that happens to be. So we've created an integration that allows you to actually query LiveNX, and let me sort of refresh this so you can see this sort of come in here. But what ends up happening is that I go to LiveNX and I say, hey, what do you guys know about this particular IP address? And what we'll get here in a second here is sort of a painting, a topology painting of those flows as coming from the LiveNX product. Now, what's great about this is that me as a user, as I'm mixing this data together from the inside of the data center to the outside of the data center, I can begin to sort of click on things, and I can kind of see exactly, okay, here are the applications that that particular host is talking. This guy here is talking to Citrix. I can see how much of that data is, which direction it's coming from. So this does allow me to essentially sort of walk through and sort of see this data. But really, I kind of want to get a little more detailed on here. So I want to see exactly what's going on here. So one of the things that we can do is to sort of go back into LiveAction. So if I go ahead and highlight this, I can kind of view and go back into LiveAction. So what happens here is that if this IP address is associated with a site, I can click on it, and then we land in the LiveAction site view. So here we are from that IP address that we see in that LiveAction view. So John, I wonder if you could kind of pick it up from here and kind of show everybody what kind of things we can troubleshoot from this view.
Thanks, Scott. So from the LiveNX side, we could look at the Austin site, and just from a high level, we could look at using NetFlow data to see what kind of traffic we have in terms of DSCP markings, but also from a deep packet inspection perspective out in the branch, what kind of applications that we have, inbound, outbound, source IP addresses, destination IP addresses. So at a high level, we can tell what's happening at the Austin site. We can zoom this out a little bit here to a geographical view and see Austin, and also in respect to all the different sites out there as well. And then you can look a little bit more in detail from an application perspective, where we can see voice over IP and some of the performance issues from a dashboard view, what's happening with the voice over IP into Austin. Now I'm gonna go into a little bit more detail using our engineering console, so I'm gonna switch views. So here we're looking at the WAN from a logical topology perspective. So we have all the different sites connecting over MPLS back to a data center, and here's Austin in the bottom left. And you can see all the different connections, how it's actually interfacing to the WAN. We could look at the interface, the inbound, outbound bandwidth showing here. And then we can overlay this with NetFlow information. So this is all the flows that are going in and out of Austin and all the different sites back to the data center. And we're looking at the voice over IP problem. So I'm gonna convert this flow back to performance. And we can gather, using deep packet inspection information, performance of certain media, voice, video, and then we could look at the metrics associated with that as well. So I'm gonna click on this particular flow, double click, and it gives us the information from NetFlow perspective, that particular traffic. So we see some real-time protocol happening here. We have drops occurring, and we can see some jitter happening here as well. I'm gonna double click on this particular traffic, and it'll figure out the actual path it took through the network. So you can see that it went through the data center, MPLS data center core, and then back to Austin. And what we're doing here is we're correlating information from various sources, whether it's SNMP or NetFlow, and putting it into one easy to see view. And you can click on any portion of this and we can bring a report. But right off the bat, you can see that the packet loss is increasing, and we can see that there's also some QoS policy happening on the Austin site. And the orange indicator means that there's potentially some QoS drops happening. So we want to investigate that, and we can project this back into the topology. So it correlates back the path and the actual issues that we're seeing. But we'll want to highlight the Austin WAN interface, and we know there's some congestion here, and we'll switch over to the QoS view. And let's drill down and look at what's happening. So right off the bat, using the instrumentation in your edge devices, we can see deep packet inspection, application traffic like YouTube, Salesforce. But once the QoS policy is applied, we can actually see the performance of the queues going through that network. And you can see that the voice class is having some issues. So the yellow indicator here means that there's drops happening. We can drill down further into that and see the actual drop rate. But with LiveAction, we can actually read the configuration of that device. So we'll load up that configuration and look at it. Obviously, we have pretty low bandwidth here, but we can adjust that. And we build a model of the configuration in our software, and we can actually fix that within the device itself. It puts the right no commands in the right place. Since it's not a template-based configuration, it's actually how a CCIE would type it. because we know all the different rules of how to do MQC QoS policies. So we can use that to fix that. So it expedites finding issues using the instrumentation in your network, and then resolving issues that are related to quality of service. So it makes it very easy.